Hey,
Hey.
welcome to Positive Partners. I still hear, make sure that sounds like the music is still playing.
A little echo.
Yeah, that
Hello.
the speaker needs to be turned down.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Now.
Okay, so what are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today? All right.
We've only got one person behind the scenes scrambling around trying to get this sorted out.
Oh, yeah. We're watching him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what we're talking about is how do you build a dog-human
Relationship?
team? A team, yeah. And relationships, yeah, goes right into that. And I've got this down in 4 parts. You know, what makes us a good combination? What makes us click together in some way, dogs and people? Now, I'm obviously that guy, and Mike Thompson, director of the Media Center here.
Right? Dog enthusiast?
Dog enthusiast, volunteer at the local dog shelter, taking pictures, getting dogs adopted.
Yeah.
So what makes us combine together to be a good team? Then part number 2, there's 4 parts here. How do we communicate? Well, we manage to do all these things, you know, without having it, you know, without quite knowing exactly how we do it, but how do we communicate with dogs? They don't speak a human language.
They can't speak, but they can understand after a while.
After a while, yeah, 200, 300 words, maybe more. There's a dog in Austria that knows, I think it's over 1,100 toys, the names of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and if you throw a toy that's not part of its original group and you say, find the such and it's never heard that name before, it'll come up with the toy that it's the new toy. Yeah. So they're good for, you know, 200 or 300 words, maybe a little bit more. And they learn that by speaking, but we start out, they don't speak our language starting out, and they really don't read dog language. You know, we don't.
I think people are worse at dog language than dogs are as good as understanding our language.
Yeah, and there's a reason to me for that, which is that in a relationship, whoever has the less power has to be the more observant.
Right.
You know, if you've got more power in a relationship, then you can kind of get away with more of what you want to just bumble through. And if you've got less power, you've got to see where that other individual is going. You know, whether that's a boss that's a little, you know, unpredictable or, you know, difficult or something. So you've got to kind of be hyper aware of them, or it pays to be aware of them.
Because immediately the dog's not demanding. The person is demanding of the dog.
Yeah,
I want you to do these things until it learns maybe how to ask to go outside or ask to eat or something.
Yeah, we hold,
to get
you know,
petted.
yeah, we hold pretty much all the cards. You know, I mean, they've got certain ones, but if
Not
they,
the big ones.
Not the big ones. And if they overplay, they're the ones who, you know, they end up at the shelter. We don't.
Right.
You know, basically, you know.
Too bad sometimes that the person can't.
Yeah, at times, you know, I understand that. And then the third area is, how do we get behavior? How do we get something that we want from our dogs? We all manage to do that. Dogs end up doing things, but how do we, you know, understand, how do we go back getting behavior that we want?
Positive or the negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
You can get something out of a dog by kicking him. That ain't the way I would do it.
Yeah, you can get avoidance behaviors.
Yeah,
You know,
I can tell when we see certain dogs at the shelter.
Yeah.
Okay, this one has been treated
You
roughly.
got a pretty good idea what they've been through.
Right.
Yeah.
And the more well-adjusted have had better owners and you know, more positive reinforcement.
Right. And that's the quality of life for an animal, particularly early on, makes a huge difference for their brain development, how stable they are emotionally, and so forth, and just how everything gets essentially wired and laid out for them. And then number 4 is, how do we get high motivation and a work ethic? You know, well, we ask that of people. How do we get
how do you
get a work ethic?
people?
You know, yeah. And there are ways to get that with dogs. So the 4 areas are what makes us a team? What do dogs bring? What do people bring? How do we communicate clearly across the species barrier. Next is how do we get behaviors? Number 3 and 4, how do we get a work ethic? How do we get dogs to, really be engaged and show some energy in what we're doing?
They want to work.
That want to work if that's something that we
most
want.
Dogs want to work or want to please the owner.
Yeah. So we'll start with what do we and dogs bring together as a team that makes us a natural combination. So, your thoughts about that? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah. Depends on the relationship. You can have with me, like a mutual admiration, mutual respect. And I would do anything for him, and he would do anything for me.
Yeah.
I'd like to think so, and I think he would.
Yeah.
But then there was respect where even if you admire the dog or love him, you don't let them run over you. You have to set boundaries, just as you do children. Everybody, I don't care what position you're in, you look for boundaries.
Yeah, and most respectful relationships back and forth between people and so forth, they're boundaries. There are results that are going on that you like, and then you know where some limits are, you know where the boundaries are, and those are
right. Your
mutually
children,
respected.
your wife, your boss, whoever.
Co-workers, friends.
You know where to go and where not to go. Same thing with your dog.
Same thing there. So what gets us going with dogs is they have been with us for, 20,000 years or so. And they have, dogs watch us. They are, when they separated from their wolf relatives so many years ago, these were the animals that observed people and figured out how to get along with this group of humans.
It was beneficial because we probably fed them.
Yeah, they might have started out eating our garbage,
Right.
And
came up to the campfire.
Up to the
Hey, you got
campfire,
some fresh
and
stuff there.
yeah. And what we are is we're both social hunters. We're both social creatures. We enjoy the company of each other. We pay attention to the behavior of each other. We enjoy similar things. We have similar needs. We, enjoy playing. We enjoy, exercise, adventure. We enjoy affection.
The dogs just look for your cues. Like if I pick up my work keys, they don't pay attention to me. If I pick up just my house key, then it's on, because they know if you picked up your house key, you're not going to work. Not that they know what work is, but that's usually the key I take when we go for walks.
Right. Yeah.
So everybody gets ramped up then.
Yeah.
So just those little things, you would be surprised. I always give my guys a little bit of cereal when I get mine. So
right.
I bring out the bowl, and everybody's like,
"Hey,
cereal
all
time!"
Right, cereal time. And what with us and dogs, we actually have bonds so that when we're petting our dogs, or they're getting petted, there's a chemical that is part of bonding in humans and all mammals actually, and it's oxytocin. This is the chemical that's released when people are
good relationships.
In relationships that they enjoy, when they're in some particularly intimate aspects of those relationships. There are chemicals that are released during childbirth, nursing, during sexual behavior, and with like hand holding and so forth. So it's an all-around bonding, safety sensing chemical that is part of that sort of cementing a close relationship with that other being. And as we are petting our dogs, or they're looking into our eyes, we're looking into theirs, our levels of oxytocin actually track each other just almost exactly same track. I knew I should have asked for gotten a Kleenex here. Does anybody have one? I've got a little. Thank you, Pat.
But there's sometimes
there we go.
we don't interpret or we don't know how to communicate on a certain way. Like, a lot of people want to hug their dogs. Now, if you didn't start out hugging your dog,
that's
then
not there.
He won't like it.
Yeah.
And I try to do that early on with the puppies, getting them touching like that. That's not a natural dog thing to hug them.
Yeah, that's
So you
that's
got to
sort
be
of
careful with your 2-year-old that goes up and grabs the dog around the neck. He may not like it very much.
Yeah.
And then looking them in the eye.
Oh, okay, that's a really good point.
You don't want to just stare, especially at a strange dog. You don't want to stare at their eye.
Yeah.
And even when you have a good relationship with your dog is when you can look at them eye to eye.
And their eyes are soft and comfortable, and they want to maintain that eye contact with you.
A lot of times they'll just look away and avoid, which is normal.
Yeah,
But
and it's got to happen naturally, because you can even make that too much for your own dog if you overdo it. But basically, if you're overdoing it.
Yeah, I had a very, very shy one, which came from surgery and the recovery from that. And what I did to foster that is just put a treat in my mouth.
Okay.
And he had to come up here and look at me.
And look at you there.
So after a while, he got used to seeing me face to face.
Yeah, yeah. So you brought up a couple areas of communication across species, and one aspect of that you brought up is that dogs are looking for patterns.
To even when I come home, they know that this school bus runs, and then the mail guy comes, and then I'm next.
Okay.
Or it's this time of day, and which is bad too, because on the weekends when I want to sleep in, they're still getting up the same time I get up during the week.
Right. Yeah. And and you also brought up that you'll give some rewards here and there, different times and so forth. So with dogs looking for patterns, they are reading our body language. And you also brought up how do we communicate, because the hugging and so forth, that's something that we and other primates do.
That's a human thing, not a dog thing.
Yeah, it's a human thing. It's actually a primate thing.
Right.
Chimps and so forth, and we'll do more arm, chest to chest hugging, and that's not what dogs do.
Right.
And then heart.
My dogs will just lean on
They'll
you.
lean, yeah, and that's an affectionate behavior. Basically, some people interpret that as they're trying to kind of push a person around, and it's really more it's affectionate. And eye contact in canine language, if another dog puts its paw across the back of a dog, and that's called T-boning, or puts its head over the back of another dog, that's actually a challenging gesture.
Right.
That's I'm gonna kind of
You're a little dog.
you're a
I'm big
little
dog.
dog, I'm big dog, and you're supposed to understand that, or there will be a problem, so
Right.
forth, right? And in eye contact, harder eye contact or staring eye contact is actually what occurs with predators, with predation. When you're locked on as a
You're
predator,
a target now.
yeah, it's a targeting behavior.
Right.
Yeah, it's like boom, like that, and the animal that's being
Put your head
targeted
down.
has figured that out. It's like, okay, the laser focus is locked onto me, beep,
Right.
and
It's like
yeah,
fighter plane thing.
like fighter plane thing. Yeah. So, and with consequences, what we want to do, there are actually, with dogs, there are really 4 things that can happen with any creature that has feelings about what's going on with it. You can take something, you have results that animal or person, that creature, that being likes, okay, and you have results or situations or feelings that creature does not like.
Yeah.
And you can either
You can
add,
show them that there's a payoff for doing this.
right. And so if the animal likes something, you can either add that or take that away. Okay. If an animal dislikes something, finds it painful, irritating, aversive, you can either add that or you can take it away. So you end up with a box. Okay. And so if you're adding something that an animal likes, or a person for that matter, that's positive reinforcement. Okay. If you are taking away something that an animal or a person likes, so you had a paycheck.
It's like putting them time out or something.
Time out, right. So that is taking away the enjoyment of being in their normal environment, of interacting, so forth. So that's called negative punishment. And punishment is some event that decreases the frequency of the behavior that it follows. So if the dog is barking at the door and or barking just kind of for some sort of barking that's not, I have to go out and I have to go to the bathroom kind of barking.
Sometimes Oliver will be out on the deck and there'll be a dog 4 houses down that's barking at something, and so
right.
he's
joining in, and you kind of say, you know what, I get that, but
Stop.
let's just not do that. And so there's a guy out of New Zealand, Doggy Dan, and I saw this approach, and this is an example of negative punishment. You say, well, first off, the dogs are attempting to communicate sometimes, so you say, oh, I hear that, thank you, And so if the dog's attempting to alert you to something out there, and you see what it is, and it's cool, it's no problem, so yeah, I got it, you communicated, thank you very much. If the dog communicates again, that way, you go up and you say, okay, look out again, okay, yeah, I see that, thank you very much, and then you might just take the dog underneath the collar at that point, just underneath here, and hold the dog, steadily, without, you're not putting pressure on its neck,
No,
but it's
you
kind of
just got
like
control over
you
it.
just got control of them and say, thank you, and settle down, And then if the dog barks at the dog who's barking, 3 yards away, the third time, you go and you take the dog to 30-second doggy timeout. Just take the dog by the collar or leash or whatever, and you calmly, without saying a word, lead the dog to the bathroom. Without saying a word, you put the dog in the bathroom, close the door, and then after 30 seconds, when the dog has been quiet for 10 or 15 seconds in a row, you let the dog out without any additional conversation, but the dog has lost its opportunity to be out and with you and all that sort of stuff. So that's negative punishment, taking away something.
Doesn't have to be a lot of drama.
Doesn't have to be a lot of drama. Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of times when we're talking to our dogs, we think that that's okay. Positive punishment is adding something that a dog doesn't like. Okay, so a leash jerk, whatever, a tap on the behind, a harsh voice, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, rolled up paper.
Rolled up paper, and then, and it escalates from there.
Right.
And that's called positive punishment, because you're adding something the dog doesn't like. And so a lot of times we think, when we tell, Scooter, no, Scooter, stop that, or we say, get down, get down, get down, get down, get down. We think we're actually discouraging that behavior. As far as the dog's concerned, we're giving some result that they like. As far as they're concerned, that's a positive. I'm getting attention, and and now we're shaking back and forth, and we're playing, and we're doing this, that, and the other. So
now that's if you haven't given very positive attention. I would.
Right. Yeah.
Just like a child, if you don't get any positive attention, you'll look for negative attention.
Yeah, and it might be.
At least it's attention.
At least it's attention that counts, that matters.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good point there. And so and the you know, in terms of communication, the most powerful communication we can give is telling the dog what we want them to do. And I'll come right back to that. And the very last thing, type of result, a way of communicating through consequences, is that we take away something that a dog doesn't like. Okay, so if somebody has got, let's say, leash pressure in some way. You know, the dog is pulling ahead of us, and we stop and we stand like a tree. So the dog has got leash pressure on it, and that's a little uncomfortable. And so when the dog backs off of that leash pressure and turns around and, let's say, looks at us, well, then we say, well, yeah, come on. So the dog, then the dog's, in that case, in charge of releasing the pressure. But then the pressure's gone off, the dog wants that result, the pressure's gone off, and then, so two things are going on. The dog has released the pressure, and that's reinforcing, and then can go on its way. You say, okay, well, let's go on to, you know, continue our walk, and that's a positive result. So that's a positive reinforcement.
I'll move when you stop pulling.
Yeah,
That type of deal.
That's that kind of deal. Yeah, and when they stop pulling is when the leash pressure, the dog has taken the leash pressure off.
Right, and then we'll continue on the walk.
Yeah, and at that point, when the dog releases the pressure, the person wants to be a part of that. You know, letting, you know, any kind of pressure in the leash go. An example of a negative reinforcement, which is taking away something the dog doesn't like, is a shock collar. And so if someone is, when you look at the humane hierarchy of training techniques and so forth, the shock collar is at the very, very bottom of that hierarchy. In other words, if you're a certified pet dog trainer or a dog trainer that's following a code of ethics, you will have done all kinds of
resort.
That's after you've done all these other things, because you want to establish a foundation. But the way that works is that if you say come to the dog, and you know, and you then are stimulating that aversive feeling in the dog's neck, and then the dog turns to you and walks towards you, and then the person lets off of that button, then that's made something negative go away, which is a
that
reinforcement.
Doesn't sound like the greatest way to make a dog come though.
Right. The deal is, the deal is with all those things, with punishment or negative reinforcement, the use of aversives, your timing has to be just right. You have to be, and the level of aversive effect that you give has to be enough to change the dog's behavior, but not enough to send the dog into aggression or shutdown. So you've got to, if you're trying to kick a field goal, you're trying to kick it between some pretty narrow posts. And so anybody who is very skilled with using those techniques is also got sufficient skill at reading a dog that they can, they would be very good positive trainers as well. So the main thing a person can do in this is to be, what we want is results from our dogs, and the dogs want to be able to get results from us, get their needs met. And so what helps is to be communicating to our dogs with consequences about what we like. So, and then we'll talk next time about how to get behaviors and how to get high motivation and effort, and we'll also come back to reading what our dogs are signaling. Okay. But the main thing that we want to do is we want to communicate with our affection, with the opportunity to go outside, with things that dogs value, with food rewards, because food is easy to deliver and easy to repeat. That the next time, you know, Spot, you're in this situation, I would really like it if you would do the very same thing you just did now.
Right, just like if you were going to eat at the table, and when we eat, I want you to go lay on this rug.
So if we're at the table and dog's on the rug, we go, hey, thank you very much. And then you might go over there and scratch the dog or throw him a little bit of cereal or something like that. So we'll pick up next time about reading our dogs and so forth, and then how to get behaviors and how to get high motivation and effort.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Positive Partners.